7 signs you're being controlled in this relationship and don't even realize it. One of the most painful realizations a person can have is discovering that they didn't lose themselves all at once. They lost themselves little by little. Most people think a controlling relationship is easy to recognize. They imagine someone who constantly gives orders, makes demands, or openly tries to dominate their partner's life. But that isn't how control usually begins. It starts with things that seem harmless. You avoid wearing something because it always creates tension. You stop mentioning certain friends because it's easier than dealing with the reaction. You keep certain thoughts to yourself because expressing them feels exhausting. At first, these changes seem small. They feel like compromises. They feel like something people do when they care about a relationship. But over time, those small compromises begin to add up. Without realizing it, you start making decisions based less on what you want and more on how someone else might respond. And that's what makes control so dangerous. It rarely arrives looking like control. It arrives looking like love, like concern, like protection, like someone who says they're only trying to keep the relationship strong. Many people spend years believing they're in a healthy relationship while slowly giving away pieces of themselves, their confidence, their independence, their voice, their identity. The frightening part is that most don't realize what's happening until they barely recognize the person they've become. Today, we're going to uncover 7 subtle signs that someone may be controlling your life without you even noticing. As you listen, ask yourself one question. Am I becoming more of who I truly am in this relationship? Or less? Because healthy love helps you grow. Control slowly teaches you to shrink, and the first sign often appears in a place most people never think to look. Most people think fear is the first sign of a controlling relationship, but often the first sign is relief. Relief when they're happy. Relief when they seem calm. Relief when you know there probably won't be tension, criticism, or an uncomfortable conversation. At first, this may not seem like a problem. After all, everyone prefers peace over conflict. But pay attention to what this feeling reveals. In a healthy relationship, you enjoy your partner's good mood because you're happy to see them happy. In a controlling relationship, their mood can start determining your sense of safety. You begin paying close attention to their tone of voice, facial expressions, and reactions. A short text message creates anxiety. A cold response makes you wonder if you've done something wrong. A shift in their mood affects your entire day. Without realizing it, you become focused on managing the emotional atmosphere instead of enjoying the relationship itself. And that's where the danger begins. When your peace depends on someone else's emotional state, you're no longer feeling free. You're adapting. You're becoming careful. You're learning how to avoid reactions instead of expressing yourself honestly. The relationship starts feeling less like a partnership and more like emotional maintenance. And once someone gains that kind of influence over your emotional world, the next thing that often changes is your behavior. Because the second sign appears when you find yourself explaining things that never should have required an explanation. Have you ever caught yourself rehearsing an explanation before sending a simple text, making a purchase, spending time with a friend, or taking some time for yourself? If so, pay attention. Because one of the clearest signs of hidden control is feeling the need to justify perfectly normal behavior. At first, it may seem harmless. You explain why you replied late. You explain where you went. You explain who you were with. You explain why you needed some alone time. The problem isn't communication. Healthy relationships are built on communication. The problem is feeling like you're constantly defending yourself. Over time, you stop sharing information because you want to. You share it because you're trying to prevent questions, suspicion, or conflict. You begin thinking carefully about every decision before making it. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you're worried about how it will be received. That's exhausting. Instead of living freely, you start living cautiously. Instead of making choices based on what feels right to you, you make them based on how someone else might react. And little by little, you stop feeling trusted. You start feeling evaluated, almost as if you're constantly being tested. The truth is that love should not feel like a courtroom where every action requires a defense. And when someone's reactions make you explain things that should never need explaining, something else often begins to change. Your connection with the people outside the relationship. And that's where the next sign begins. One of the most effective forms of control doesn't happen through direct commands. It happens through silence. Think about the people who know you best, your closest friends, your family, the people who used to hear about everything happening in your life. Now, ask yourself something honest. Have you stopped telling them certain things about your relationship? Not because nothing is wrong, but because you already know what they might say. Maybe you've started leaving details out of conversations. Maybe you've found yourself defending behavior that doesn't sit right with you. Maybe you've avoided certain topics altogether because you don't want to hear someone express concern. This is how isolation often begins, not with a demand to cut people off, but with a slow withdrawal from the people who offer perspective. The less you share, the less feedback you receive. The less feedback you receive, the easier it becomes to normalize unhealthy behavior. Before long, the relationship becomes your entire emotional world. The person influencing you the most becomes the person you're least likely to question, and that's exactly why this sign is so important. Healthy relationships strengthen your connections with others. Controlling relationships often make your world smaller. Not overnight, just little by little. And once your support system becomes weaker, another pattern becomes much easier to miss. Because the next sign has a way of making you feel guilty even when you're the one who's been hurt. Have you ever started a conversation because something hurt you and somehow ended up apologizing? If that has happened more than once, this sign deserves your attention. In healthy relationships, both people can talk about problems and feel heard. But in controlling relationships, something different often happens. You bring up a concern, a comment that bothered you, a promise that was broken, a behavior that crossed a boundary. You expect a conversation about what happened. Instead, the focus slowly shifts. Suddenly, they're talking about how stressed they've been, how difficult things have been for them, how your words made them feel attacked, how much they're suffering. And before you know it, the original issue has disappeared. Now you're comforting the person who hurt you. The problem isn't that they have feelings. Everyone does. The problem is that their feelings consistently become more important than yours. Over time, this creates a dangerous pattern. You begin thinking twice before bringing up concerns. You start questioning whether it's even worth having the conversation. You stay quiet to avoid another emotional marathon that leaves you feeling guilty. And little by little, your needs get pushed further into the background. This is one of the most subtle forms of control, not stopping you from speaking, but making you feel like speaking will only create more problems. Eventually, you begin keeping things to yourself. And when that happens often enough, something deeper starts to change. You stop trusting your own feelings. You stop trusting your own judgment. And that's exactly where the next sign begins. This is where control becomes psychological. It is no longer just about what happens between you and the other person. It starts affecting the relationship you have with yourself. Think about how many times you felt hurt, uncomfortable, or uneasy about something, only to be told that you're overreacting, that you're too sensitive, that you're imagining things. That wasn't what they meant. That never happened the way you remember it. At first, you trust your instincts. You know what you felt. You know what you experienced. But when your feelings are repeatedly dismissed, something begins to change. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm making this bigger than it is. Maybe the problem is me. And the more this happens, the quieter your inner voice becomes. Instead of trusting your own judgment, you start looking to someone else for confirmation. You stop asking, "How do I feel about this?" and start asking, "Am I allowed to feel this way?" That's a dangerous shift, because the moment you stop trusting yourself, you become easier to control. Your confidence weakens. Your boundaries become harder to defend. Your decisions become harder to make. And slowly, another person's version of reality starts carrying more weight than your own. A healthy relationship should strengthen your trust in yourself, not make you question your sanity, your memory, or your emotions. But when self-trust begins to disappear, something else usually follows close behind: your sense of worth. And that's where the next sign begins. No matter how hard you try, it never seems to be enough. You become more patient, more understanding, more available, more willing to compromise. You genuinely want the relationship to work, so you keep giving more of yourself. But somehow, the complaints never stop. The expectations keep changing. The standards keep moving. Every time you solve one problem, another one appears. Every time you meet an expectation, a new one takes its place. And before long, you find yourself trapped in a cycle of constantly trying to prove your worth. You tell yourself that if you just communicate better, love harder, or try a little more, things will finally improve. But the feeling never goes away. That feeling that you're falling short, that you're disappointing them, that you're somehow not enough. Over time, this can become emotionally exhausting. You stop focusing on your strengths and start focusing on your flaws. You stop noticing what you're doing right and become obsessed with what you're doing wrong. Your self-worth becomes tied to someone else's approval, and that's a heavy burden for anyone to carry. The truth is, healthy love doesn't leave you feeling like you're constantly being graded. It doesn't make you feel like you're one mistake away from disappointing the person you care about. Healthy love creates security. It encourages growth. It makes you feel valued, even when you're imperfect. Because real love isn't about constantly proving your worth. It's about knowing your worth is already recognized. And after spending enough time feeling like you're never enough, something heartbreaking often happens. You start missing someone. Not another person, yourself. And that's where the final sign reveals the true cost of being controlled. Of all the signs we've discussed, this is often the most painful, because it forces you to look back and ask a question many people spend years trying to avoid. What happened to the person I used to be? Maybe there was a time when you felt more confident, more spontaneous, more independent. You spoke your mind without constantly worrying about how someone would react. You made decisions without needing approval. You pursued your interests, maintained your friendships, and felt comfortable being yourself. Then, little by little, things changed. Not through one dramatic event, but through countless small moments, small compromises, small sacrifices. Small pieces of yourself given away in the name of keeping the relationship peaceful. And now, when you think about who you were before, it feels like you're remembering someone else. Someone stronger, someone freer, someone more connected to their own voice. That's the hidden cost of control. It doesn't just influence your behavior, it changes your relationship with yourself. Healthy love expands your life. It gives you the confidence to grow into the person you're meant to become. Control does the opposite. It teaches you to become smaller, to take up less space, to silence parts of yourself in order to maintain harmony. And one day, you realize you've spent so much time protecting the relationship that you stopped protecting your identity. If this sign feels familiar, don't ignore it. Because missing the person you used to be isn't just sadness, it's information. It's your mind reminding you that something important has been lost. And once you recognize that loss, you can begin finding your way back. Because the goal of love was never to change who you are. It was to give you a safe place to be who you are. And that's exactly why the final message of this video is so important. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this. Most controlling relationships don't begin with control. They begin with affection. That's what makes them so difficult to recognize. Nobody willingly gives away their freedom. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to lose their confidence, their voice, or their sense of self. It happens gradually, one compromise at a time, one justification at a time, one sacrifice at a time, until the changes become so familiar that they no longer feel like changes at all. And that's why awareness matters. Not because awareness immediately solves everything, but because you cannot change what you refuse to see. If several of these signs felt familiar, don't rush to label your relationship. Instead, be honest with yourself. Ask the questions that truly matter. Do I feel free to express myself? Do I feel respected when I disagree? Do I trust my own instincts? Am I becoming more confident in this relationship? Or am I slowly becoming smaller? Because healthy love should never require you to abandon yourself. It should never make you feel guilty for having needs, boundaries, opinions, or a life outside the relationship. The right relationship doesn't take away your identity, it protects it. It doesn't make you question your worth, it reminds you of it. And perhaps the most important truth of all is this: love and control are not the same thing. Love creates freedom. Control creates fear. Love helps you grow. Control makes you shrink. Love allows you to be fully yourself. Control asks you to become someone else. So, if you've recognized yourself in parts of this video, don't ignore that feeling. Listen to it. Because sometimes, the first step toward changing your life isn't making a decision. It's simply telling yourself the truth. And the moment you start seeing things clearly is the moment you stop losing yourself without realizing it. You deserve a relationship where your voice matters, where your boundaries are respected, where your confidence grows instead of fades, and where being loved never requires you to stop being yourself.